And we're live. It is officially week 5 prep for the Vampire Fantasy Football Forum. And, looking over last week's episodes and, kind of how I was doing things, I felt rushed. I felt a little bit kind of not myself, dealing with allergies, and had some good introspective time for myself as I look at what are we doing with this? How are we being different? How are we going through this and providing the best analysis, the best way to prep you, our listeners here, for your upcoming weeks every week as we prep each and every week in our fantasy league? Because let's face it, my team, it doesn't look like your team. There may be some similarities with players, but typically there's not a team that looks exactly like another one out there. If there is, I think you're doing it wrong. You should not have teams look exactly alike. That's how you get stuck on takes of players. You're on one process and one process alone. You're on just a way of, this is what I'm doing, these are the players I'm targeting, and this is, you can't get me off on. That's not how you found value. So we're going to do some stuff different this week. We will prep. We'll do some things, similar as far as prepping some highlights for week 5. But, you don't need me to go out and tell you who to go start, as far as, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Cooper Kupp, you're starting them. Matthew Berry, who's been a titan in this industry for so many years, he has kind of paved the way for everybody and dream makers, including myself. And I'm not actually going to say I'm out here a fantasy football analyst. I'm just a guy that decided to go buy a microphone and get it plugged into his computer and do a little work. And the research that I do for my own fantasy leagues, I am now speaking into a microphone for you, the listener, for this. So I'm just here trying to create value for you, our listeners, the one or two of you that are out there that are listening, and I appreciate that. And there might be a thought of, why is it Vampire? Why not just, Fantasy Football Forum? And one, I hate trying to come up with names for shows. I'm not very creative in that department. I was creative enough in my home league to come up with the poem that I read on this football podcast here of draft season and putting it to the tune of, not tune, I didn't sing it, but putting it to the poem of the night before Christmas being the night before fantasy drafts. And, I'm clever in some ways, but I'm not very clever in other ways. I really don't like trying to come up with show names. It's not really fun. There are people out there that do that, but I didn't want to be some cheesy name of, oh, I'm this person, I'm that person, and I'm just a guy. I'm just somebody here spouting into a microphone that maybe one or two of you listening out there. And if you are, I appreciate it. Send feedback. But again, to answer the question, why Vampire Fantasy Football Forum? Well, because we are busy behind the scenes here at the Vampire Fantasy Football Network here. We are busy with creating a new platform. It was not able to go live this year, and our hope is next year it will be live. But if not, maybe there'll be a beta out there with some testers. But our hope is that it will be live, that we will have a brand new platform to go live that you can host your fantasy league on. And we want to focus on specializing in vampire leagues. And if you don't know what a vampire league is, that's fine. If you listened to me before, you heard me explain it. So feel free to go ahead, skip ahead on this. That's fine. I won't be hurt. But a vampire league is where one team does not draft. You have your regular draft, and everybody except one team drafts. However, when you're done with your draft, the team that did not draft is the only team that has access to the waiver wire, and there are no trades allowed in that league. So, the team that did not draft is designated as the Vampire. And if that team beats any other team in the league at any point in time in the season, That team is able to, the vampire team is then able to go out, trade one of their players for the team that they just beat, one of the other opponent's team's players. In essence, taking a bite out of their competition and giving that team that they just beat a lesser player and taking a greater player, thus getting stronger throughout the season. The difficulty is a vampire team, since they only have access to the waiver wire, it's a very uphill battle for them. But it is only week 5, and as we've seen, players have gone down. Jonathan Taylor is out this week as the Colts are playing the Broncos. Did you have Nyheim Hines? Possibly. Did you have the other backup? I forget. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I would bet you did not have him rostered in your league. So the vampire would be available to go grab them if you wanted. Did you have Mike Boone rostered in a league like that? My guess is no, you did not. The vampire would have the ability to go add Mike Boone and play him if he or she would so choose to. So that is why vampire, because we are specializing in that form of playing. However, we do not just give advice for vampire leagues, because that is not the only type of way to play fantasy football. You can use any type of analysis to play in a vampire format while playing fantasy football. So that is why we don't specialize in just that type of format. We do specialize in all formats of playing the game. If you're playing best ball, you really don't need to have analysis. You've drafted your team and you set it and you're done. So, but here we go. I'm gonna start this week not by going through the games, although that is really good, but it's kind of something that we are now in week 4, or excuse me, we have gone through 4 weeks. We're now in week 5. We have 4 points of data. And we started the season at one level with teams and players thinking they were going to or not going to look certain ways. The Broncos were supposed to be one of the best teams this year, and that is really not the case. Now, the way they're playing doesn't surprise me, but the players are affected by that. The Colts also have not been doing so hot. Their players are affected by it. So we've had to reshift the way we think about players. And there are some players that have been injured that we've had to shift, and some players have more value than others. As we're going through the season, the further and further away we get from draft season, which we are far enough away from that, it can no longer be used as, well, I drafted this guy in the first round, therefore he's a first round capital, and therefore this is blah, 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 blah. No, stop. In a seasonal league, not dynasty. Dynasty is a whole different valuation. In a seasonal league, players have value for this year. Unless it's a keeper, then you may determine, depending on where you end up keeping a player, that player may have value for longer. But typical seasonal leagues, players only have value for this year. Meaning, I'll give an example. Saquon Barkley was a second-round pick. He ended up sneaking in the first round some places, but he was typically a second-round pick in your league. Potentially, depending on how early you drafted, he was a third-round pick. A guy like Najee Harris, and I do have Harris in one league, actually. I do have him in one league, and that's because he fell to me very late. Saquon Barkley was actually drafted before him. But typically that did not happen. Harris typically went in the first round. They're not equal now. If you had Saquon Barkley on your league or on your team, you like life a little bit better than having Najee Harris. So when it comes to trades, we can't keep thinking about players as, well, I drafted him in this position, and therefore he should be worth this because I at least drafted him there. there are some types of trade strategies that the typical fantasy football analyst, fantasy football talking bobblehead, and I am one of those now talking bobbleheads. I'm not an analyst. I will be a talking bobblehead, but not an analyst. You may not call me that. You may hear, oh, you should buy this guy high. You should sell this guy high. Or buy this guy low, not buy high. That's one of my things I like to do. But you should buy this guy low. You should sell this guy high. You should trade this for this. You should do a 2-for-1. See if you could give up 2 of these types of players for 1 really, really good players. Or what as some people might call, I'll give ponies for a horse type of a deal. There's nothing wrong with that. But my issue I have when it comes to that type of trading is if I'm trading away a player on my roster for a different player, one, I should be helping my team out. That's always the goal of everybody. How can I win, in air quotes, win this trade? But I don't think it's about winning as it is about, did I make my team better? And then the second question that I think is forgotten mostly, did I make the team that I traded with better as well? Now, some of you just turned this off or quit listening when I said that because, well, why would I want to make my opponent's team better? You can make your opponent's team better while making your team better as well and still not come out feeling like, man, I can't believe I gave up this guy for that. That's something I think is not looked at very often in this industry is how can I actually make somebody better by making my team better as well. I'm not typically one to condone, or not necessarily condone, but to advocate for like position. I will trade you this running back for that running back. Now, I have done that. I'm not going to come out here and tell you I've never done that. I never do those trades. I actually just completed one of those today. But those trades are typically formed of, I like this player better than I like the player that I'm trading away. Therefore, if you like the player that I'm trading away more, better than you like the player that I'm getting, I'm okay with this. And typically, they're a pretty equal value. There's not really lopsided trades for that. Now, those are very basic, boring trades. Don't come out, well, should I trade this guy for that guy? What do you think? How do you like it? How do you evaluate it? If you like it, why are you asking me? Was some random idiot that has a microphone going to tell you that, doesn't already... I mean, they're going to validate your already position that you have, that you like that player or don't like the other player, or I'm going to disagree with you, and then you're going to call me an idiot because, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Great, I don't. That's fine. Like-for-like trades are the weakest and the least efficient types of trades. Now, another trade that I don't like either are 2-for-1s. Those are a very popular type of trade that people like to do. Hey, I'm giving you 2 guys that equal this guy that I'm asking for. And this guy that I'm asking for is really much a stud, but the 2 guys, it provides depth and it gives you some sort of value. But I'm taking away one of your best assets. And I've ranted on this, and I'm going to try to stop to do this. These are players, these are men, these are human beings. They're not assets. When it comes to fantasy football, though, that's the terms we try to use when we get stuck on, and every once in a while I do. So I will be better on that. But we try to use players to make our teams better, and we want the most valuable players on our team. So I understand the 2-for-1s. However, if I'm on the deal that's giving up the 1, I am typically making my team much worse, even by taking the 2. Now, scenarios that this happens a lot is if I'm the team that just lost, let's say I just lost Jonathan Taylor, right? And I'm weak at running back right now. And there's probably teams out there that have this scenario right now. But I have some pretty good depth at running back. But I still need that guy. Well, there might be somebody saying, hey, I'm going to give you Jonathan Taylor, and he's hurt, so I'm taking on some risk. And that's true, But I'm going to give you Zay Jones, and I'll give you Melvin Gordon. Yeah, I'll give you him because he's a starting running back now, and that may seem like a very fair trade, and that's probably not a bad trade. But let's say I have 3 wide receivers that are already better than Zay Jones, and Melvin Gordon's no better than my 3rd running back potentially. Maybe I have Chase Edmonds, and he helps Chase Edmonds, but let's say my 2nd running back, maybe my 2nd running back is, I don't know, maybe my 2nd running back is Cam Akers. And Cam Akers is not very good, so he would probably be your 3rd one. Did I make my team better? My argument is going to be no, I probably didn't. I'm better off keeping Jonathan Taylor and not getting the double player side of that trade because I'm losing the best player. Yes, Jonathan Taylor is going to come back and play. Will he be 100%? We hope so. I actually never had the ability to draft Jonathan Taylor in any of my teams this year. I'm okay with that because I didn't draft at the 101 or 102. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. My point with that, though, is I understand the thought process. I don't agree with it. If you're thinking about sending a 2-for-1 trade, ask yourself, is this really helping their team? Does this help fill a need for them now and in the future? I prefer giving trades of different positions, whether that's a QB, potentially more in a 2 QB league or a Superflex league, that they need a QB and maybe another position that I need 2 other positions of different value. Maybe I need wide receiver and they want to trade me 2 wide receivers and I'm trading away a QB and a running back. And I get my wide receiver help and I give depth or a startable quarterback and depth at running back. I've made the other team better. I've also made my team better. When you're trading, the typical format I like to look at is if I gave this player away, is that going to hurt? And I'll give a real life example. One of my teams, I actually traded away Garrett Wilson after his 30-point blow-up game. I didn't want to. But the return I got, what I got in back, actually made my team better than holding Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's a great player. What I got in return, you don't need to know the details of the trade. You don't want to know my trade, my team. I gave up something that hurt just a little. I didn't really want to. But at the same time, I ran through the numbers and my own algorithms, my own spreadsheets, my own what I do, and I made my team better. I also made his team better. It hurt giving up some of those players that are on my team. I like them. I wouldn't have them on my team if I didn't like them. So when you're conducting trades, there's a thought process that you should probably look at doing. This is kind of what I do. I don't just send, you can do this, and it's like the salesman that goes and makes 1,000 cold calls and has success doing that. You can send carpet deals. You can just send deals out to your other fellow managers. You can do that, and you might have some success. But a typical process that I think is better is to start a conversation with your league mate that you're trying to trade with. Find out where are they valuing it. You can look at their roster and see where they're weaker at position-wise and where they may need some help. Well, you might be able to help them. Then you can figure out where do they value the players that you're potentially interested in versus the players that you're potentially willing to trade away. See if there's anywhere close. If not, you may as well just be like, well, we're not going to come to an agreement. I value this player a little bit differently than you do, and you value it differently than I do. That's great. That's what makes this fun. It might be a fair offer and they say no. You shouldn't be hurt by that because a fair offer can still say no. That's okay. But you should still find the reason, what you're willing to, how you value a player versus how your league mate values that player or those players. Once you have that conversation down, then you can start going with, well, I see your positional need and I have this positional need. You can be honest about that. Hopefully they're going to do the same thing you do. They're going to see it. They're going to understand, I need this position, you need that position. I can help you with this, you can help me with that. That's when you start to say, hey, I'm thinking about player A or player B or maybe both. What are your thoughts? Don't just send them, I'm thinking about sending you this. See what they come back with. Play it slow. Don't just say, well, hey, I'm going to give you this for that. And when they say no, be like, well, why not? It's a fair offer. In your mind, yes. And it really might be. But again, they may value it differently, and that's okay. If they're way off and you know they're way off, walk away. While some players might be players that you really want to trade away, sometimes you just ride it out because you're not going to get the value you want, and they're not going to give it to you, and that's fine. At the end of the day, that's fine. This is a game that is played upon a game. It is okay. My point is, when we're trading in fantasy football, we should not be doing it to just get our league mates. Yes, we want to build the best team. Yes, we want to win a championship. Yes, we want all of that, and we want to be better than our league mates. But don't be that guy. Don't be the sleazy used car salesman. Hey, I've got all these bench guys, and I've got this guy that should be coming back from injury. And, I want 2-year starters, but I'm giving you some fair assets. I'm giving you about five bench spots here that you can fulfill, and they'll provide some assets. And if an injury comes, and if this, and if that, don't be that guy. If it's a good trade, you're going to feel it too, because you don't want to give up some of the players that you're giving to your league mate. That is my quote-unquote TED Talk, my PSA, my talks about trades. As we are now, if you've not thought about, well, it's too early to trade, then you're not playing for a championship. Don't be tied to the players you drafted. You did not walk away from your draft with every single player that you wanted, and if you did, you're doing it wrong. Go get the guys that have potential. Trade away guys that you don't feel confident in, either their production's either not going to sustain itself or somebody believes it's going to turn around and you're not sure it will. Yeah, there's risk. Yeah, you could be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. I don't like being wrong ever, but it's okay to be wrong. And if you're wrong and somebody else is right, bravo. Kudos. Congrats. You did it. I didn't. Now let's get into a few of these games. I will kind of highlight where I think we may have some opportunity here. I'm hearing certain narratives about each player or each team, and some games aren't being talked about as much. And I think the games that aren't being talked about as much, that's where we find some differentiation here. Week by week, there are games that are talked about more than others. This is where we can find some differentiation here. We're in the middle of Thursday night games, so we're not going to discuss Denver and Indy, but these are two struggling offenses. We don't need to discuss them more. It is the Packers and the Giants. Green Bay is an 8-point favorite. This is a London game, so if you have these players, make sure you are starting them or you have that lineup set early. The thing that I will say about both these teams, if Saquon's healthy, you can run against the Packers. They give up over 100 yards a game. Saquon's going to look to have a good game. On the flip side, between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, The Packers, combined with their 2 running backs, are the number 1 rushing team behind both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So if you have both of their running backs, you have the number 1 running back, but it takes 2 of them. So I hope you don't have both on your lineup. But you can run, and I think Green Bay will run. Yes, they have Aaron Rodgers, but their pass catchers are not anything to write home about. Yes, they have Romeo Doubs, and I did do the whole Romeo, wherefore art thou? Aaron Rodgers will do what Aaron Rodgers does, but Green Bay is coming through this year as a run team. They want to run. They want to control the game. They're getting physical. They have a good defense. I would temper expectations on any pass catcher for New York. I don't think they have very many that are healthy. And they have a decent defense. They're going to make the running backs on Aaron Rodgers beat them. So this could be a pretty quiet scoring game with the running backs just getting their yards and going all ham on them. We don't know. We're speculating here on game time. We don't know how the game's going to play out, but we think. It's like in school, you have a bell curve, right? Or in anything in life, you have a bell curve, and you think, well, there's the 5% of what can happen, there's the 20%, there's that 50, the other 20%, then there's that 20% on the other side and the 5% on the other side. In our game theory, we're trying to point and predict what's going to happen based on what's most likely going to happen. That's what we do. That's how we make our projections. That's how we see the game previewing out based on the data. But again, like I said before, we have limited data. I have 4 points of data for the season. And yes, that is a start to see where defenses are giving up points to what positions. And within those positions, what positions they have. Still only 4 points. It's not a lot. We're still going to get it wrong. But again, Cleveland at the LA Chargers. Versus LA Chargers. So it's a home game for Cleveland here. Cleveland wants to run. You can run on the Chargers. You can absolutely run on the Chargers. Chargers this year running, they are giving up. As I look here, this is great radio. Yeah, 109 yards on the ground. Nick Chubb's going to have a great week. The Browns are a running team. That means on the flip side, the Chargers, they want to be able to throw. And against quarterbacks, let's look at this here. Let's look at what Cleveland is giving up against quarterbacks. Cleveland gives up over 200 yards to quarterbacks. They give up over a touchdown a game. Justin Herbert has the ability to have a decent game. May not have an outstanding game, but he can have a decent game. To wide receivers, Cleveland gives up over 157 yards to wide receivers. Mike Williams, if Keenan Allen's back, they're starting to hit the mid-tier wide receiver depth. That's where Keenan Allen, if he's back, this is a good sign for him. You can also run on Cleveland. They're giving up almost 100 yards a game on the ground. You can run on them. So this could be a pretty interesting game. Cleveland is a 2.5-point favorite. This is a home game for Cleveland. If anything, they're expecting Cleveland to run and hold the ball away from Herbert. That could be how it goes. Cleveland or the Chargers could come out and just grab a hold of the lead and just go. They have that ability too. Vikings and Bears. Minnesota is a 7.5 road favorite against the Bears. You can run against the Bears. Dalvin Cook is healthy. Dalvin Cook can run, and potentially Alexander Madison can run as well. It doesn't mean Justin Jefferson won't have a decent game, but you can run on the Bears. Minnesota looks to go away with this really easily. Patriots and Lions. I'm not talking about Matt Patricia revenge game. I don't care about that. Matt Patricia was never a good head coach. Matt Patricia is also not a good offensive coordinator. That being said, you can run on the Lions. Look what Rashad Penny did last week. You can run on the Lions. For running backs, they give up 160 yards on the ground. Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, but I prefer Ramondre Stevenson will have the ability to run. Remember, Bill Belichick has played a game where his quarterback only threw 3 times. That can happen. On the flip side, we already know DeAndre Swift is potentially out this week. So, Lions potentially could have a rough game. Jets and Dolphins, I'm looking for the Dolphins, despite having Teddy Bridgewater, to be back real quick. And I'm going to hold. And we are back. Sorry. Miami, despite having Teddy Bridgewater as their quarterback, I do look for them to continue having success against the Jets. The Jets are a sneaky good team, though, so don't be surprised. They come out throwing. Miami is giving up. Let's look at the points here that they're giving up. In the air, actually, is where I'm looking at for the Jets pass catchers, because the Jets are one of the most pass-heavy teams this year. They like to throw the ball. Miami, yeah, they give up almost 200 yards in the air. Not a bad little give up there in the air if you have a Garrett Wilson or you want to take Elijah Moore stab or whatever you want to do. Titans at Commanders, honestly, it's Nick Chubb, or it's Derrick Henry, not Nick Chubb, it's Derrick Henry. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be a rough day for Washington here. They're 1.5 point favorite, but I think the Titans are going to get them this week. Excuse me. New Orleans versus Seattle. Seattle doesn't have a good defense. We'll see if Jameis Winston comes back. He is a streamer in QB for QBs if he plays. If not, it's potentially Andy Dalton. Hopefully they get Michael Thomas back. If not, Alvin Kamara is practicing. Looks like he's going to be good. You give up a lot of, or the Seahawks give up a lot of yards to every position. If you have a team facing the Seahawks, you like seeing that. Bills in Pittsburgh Steelers. The Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Kenny Pickett's season, is it not? And what a start he gets to go up against Buffalo. Now, I just have a feeling Buffalo's a 14-point favorite. Now, I get it. Buffalo lost to Pittsburgh last year, game 1. I don't know. I don't see him as a 14-point favorite, though. I can see him 7, maybe 10. I'm not seeing 14 points here. Buffalo on the ground gives up, and 2 running backs. You can run on Buffalo. Now, I say that, and they only give it 57 yards, but they also give up 20 yards in the air. So you can. It's rough. They still have a good defense. It's going to be interesting. Pittsburgh just has a way of being well coached to get guys where they need to be and to execute. It's about executing if you have the right players. Coaches give the game plan. Players execute. Coaches are not determined on how players are doing things on the field. They prepare. Players execute. I think if you have a Steeler, if you can sit them for a different option, it's better. If not, I get it. you're kind of playing who you are. If you have Deontay Johnson, if you have Najee Harris, you probably don't have better options. They might surprise you. I don't get the feeling that Buffalo's going to run away with this one as a 2-touchdown favorite. Jacksonville playing Houston. The Jags are a 7-point favorite, but Houston, I've said it before for this year, Houston is going to be pesky. Houston wants to have that take control. They can do that. They have the ability to do that. Now, Jacksonville has taken leaps, bounds better than what they were. They're coming from worst to almost first here as far as the AFC South goes, but you can do things on Houston. You can throw, you can run. I actually think ETN, this is part of his turn of taking over that backfield for James Robinson. Watch out for Jacksonville. Carolina, San Francisco. It's going to be an ugly game for Carolina. San Francisco has good defense. Baker Mayfield is bad. If you have DJ Moore, I'm sorry. It's about having the right offense and the right players, not necessarily just having the right players. You want the right offense too. Carolina's not that way. We want Baker Mayfield to be that guy. He is not. The Rams and Cowboys. If you need a defensive stream and they're out there, go get the Cowboys. I think they have a heyday against a weakened LA Rams line. The Rams are 5.5-point favorites. Now, I am typically not a Cowboy fan. Okay, I make fun of Cowboy fans. I will be very honest about that one. I do not like the Cowboys. I actually see that they could win this game. The Rams are in trouble. The Rams are not what we thought they were. They are not the team that we thought they were going to be as a potential repeat of Super Bowl champions. Matt Stafford does not look good. That offensive line does not look good. And therefore, I think the defensive front for Dallas wreaks havoc. Micah Parsons particularly wreaks havoc on Matt Stafford. I don't think Jalen Ramsey's a lockdown corner like he was. I'm saying it. I'm calling it. I think CeeDee Lamb has a pretty decent game. Michael Gallup has a pretty decent game. Not sure about the running backs here. The Rams, I looked them up here, 2 running backs. Well, it's 2 wide receivers too, because if I'm saying that CeeDee Lamb might have a potentially good game here, they give up over 200 yards to the wide receivers. So, absolutely, CeeDee Lamb has potential to have a really good game. So, running backs, and I'm not saying they're all going to go, those 200 yards all go to CeeDee Lamb. I get they have at least 3 wide receivers. The Rams give up over 70 yards a game. That's not a lot, but at the same time, that's actually a fair amount. And so if Dallas wants to come out and run, they could do that potentially. Eagles versus the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are a surprise 5-point favorites? I don't know what Cardinal team you've watched. Nope. The Eagles. Excuse me. I read that wrong. The Eagles are a 5-point favorite. Yes, that is right. I'm sorry. The Cardinals are +5. I'm sorry. The Eagles should be favored in this game. The Cardinals are not a good team. The Eagles have one of the best defenses this year. It's going to be a tough game for Arizona, but we'll see what happens. Cliff Kingsbury could pull something out, and Kyler Murray could be prepared this week. We don't know. Baltimore and Cincinnati. I think Baltimore's going to run away with this one. Literally run away with this one. Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, he is healthy. Gus Edwards is coming back. Hopefully Justice Hill, his hamstring is right. Baltimore is going to run away with this one. Last is Kansas City and the Raiders of Las Vegas. Here's how Kansas City loses this game. They are prepping for Buffalo next week. Other than that, I don't think Kansas City walks away losing this game. If Travis Kelce gets going, the rest of the team will follow suit. If not, what we've seen this year is if Travis Kelce does not get going, the rest of the team has potential to suffer. The good thing is Kansas City can run. If you have Josh Jacobs, Kansas State is the number 2 rush defense. And you heard me correct. They are the number 2 rush defense. This defense is built to not let you run and keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. If you're going to play, you play. You don't need me to come out here and tell you to play Davante Adams. You're already playing Davante Adams, but you beat Kansas City over the air. Davante Adams will have a decent game. Darren Waller stands to have a decent game too. All right. That's my rundown. Those were kind of my takes. I don't really have that many sleepers because they should be guys that you're coming to form with. I shouldn't have to tell you, hey, in Jacksonville and Houston, play Zay Jones if he's healthy. If he is healthy, he's a wide receiver 3. He's a flex spot. If he's one of your best options, go play that guy. You kind of got to make that decision for yourself. You got to look at the defenses, what they give up and who they give it up to. If you think that there's an opportunity there, don't go by a projection. Okay? You didn't build that projection. You don't know what that algorithm is looking at. You play you, boo. You play your team. Go out, have a good week. Hopefully your team has success. If you've had success, that's awesome. If not, hopefully this is the week you start turning it around. Have an awesome, awesome fantasy football week 5, and we will see you next week for our reactions.